Now do you see it?
Yes, looks good.
Okay, great. All right. So, where were we? So the videos started to automatically play as I was going through this, but if you pull down pull this PowerPoint from the FTP site, you'll see at the bottom there's a start video arrow, and you just kind of hover down around that, and the arrow will pop up to start the video, and then it tells you here on the side like how long the video is. Okay, so then it talks about resuming data entry. And like I said at the beginning, everybody that I've given this to has learned how to do it without any instruction and using the data guidance and the helpful tips sheet. So I think it's pretty good. And I'm going to also show you guys how to do some of these things as well. We'll just do it live during the meeting. So this is about first-time users. I told you guys about this. I would like you to do one complete sample and then let somebody know, and we'll have you put it back on the FTP site and check it before we actually submit it for loading. And then some people like to just get that one loaded to make sure that it actually loads before they continue on. And a tip that I'll give you guys now is not to ever try to delete data from a shell and enter something new. There's inevitably something that you'll miss. Like if you have a shell that's already got data entered in it and it's been loaded, just put that shell in a file somewhere or in a folder and pull a new one off of the FTP site to add new data. Or you can keep one on your desktop and copy it to add new data. But when you're adding new data, always use an empty shell, because the autoloader will usually pick up something from any kind of old data that you've tried to delete and add new data like over the top of it, and it will usually fail to load. And then one of these, sometimes when a shell is submitted and you've added data to it, we're asking you to be real careful, make sure you QC your data, check the numbers. We have a shell viewer that you can hook your shell up to so you can see the data readily. You can just look down the columns, make sure that you haven't placed a comma in place of a decimal and a number. That has caused critical errors in the database. And sometimes it's taken like almost 2 weeks to resolve, even after we fix the mistake. So we're just asking you to make sure you QC your data entries, or have another person QC your data entries, like the day after or a week after, even before you submit them for loading, just to make sure that you haven't created any errors. And you also want to make sure that you're submitting good data. So this talks to you about how to rename your shell. So we'll give you the shell with a name, and it may be DFW_BA 2023. And each time you add something to a shell, we ask that you give it a unique suffix at the end. So if you're Department of Fish and Wildlife, or I don't know why I have DFG in here. We all know it's DFW. But you could put your agency code. You could put the date that you submitted it. If you're submitting more than one shell, give it a number. But you don't have to follow this exactly. You can do whatever it is to make your shell name unique, because each time we add it to our tracker, we don't want to have the same name of a shell in there more than once. So just make sure your shell name is unique. You can add your initials and the date, or the date that you're adding to the shell, whatever it is, just make sure that's unique. And then this tells you where to put the shell into the incoming folder when you're ready to submit it, and then you send an email to your Swamp IQ liaison and the WIMA help desk with these information, the agency name of the zipped file, date the file was uploaded, and the project codes that are within the file. So now I'm going to show you. This is what a shell would look like on your desk. It's an access form. This is the BA field form. So with bioassessment data, you have to open the BA field form and hook up your shell. Well, let me go over this real quick first. This is the bioassessment data entry guidance. It's pretty good. Is somebody trying to get in here? No. Okay. So bioassessment data entry guidance, and it shows a table of contents here so you can look for what you need. It shows what the data forms look like when you take them out in the field. And basically, when you do hook up your shell to the bioassessment field form, it will look very similar to your field sheets. So it's, and I think it's all in the same order. So it makes it easier to enter your data. And this is what your transect forms will look like. Transect A and then transect AB. It goes all the way through K. And then you'll have slope and bearing after all of your transects are entered. This is the kind of the order that it goes into to enter your data into the field form. And then you will enter any bioassessment samples, your benthic invertebrates, your algae samples, and water quality. That all goes at the end. So always, if you have collected, and that's one of my biggest questions, is people will say, well, I entered all my data, but I didn't know how to enter my benthic samples or my chemistry samples. That's all at the very end. So you just keep pushing through the BA field form until you get to those, which are at the very end. So I'm going to pause here for a second. I've been talking a lot. Does anybody have any questions right now? Unmute your mic if you do. Okay. So I'm going to assume no questions. You can also butt in if you need to, and stop me if you have a question while I'm doing this. You can just ask the question. Okay, so anyway, here, this is all about the guidance. I would highly suggest reading it before you're going to submit data or before you're going to try to enter data. Then we have this helpful tips sheet, and it also goes over what I'm going over today. It shows you what a shell looks like, the BA field form, what it looks like when you're linking it up. This is the main menu, and then if you have any issues, you might be able to find some way to resolve them in here. You can always ask me, Tony Marshall, if you have an issue while you're working on this, and I'll try to help you, walk through what your issue might be.
Hey, Tony.
Yes.
This is Nathan. I have a quick question.
Yes.
Since you were on that first page. I was playing around with the field forms the other day.
Yes.
And I think the copy of I don't know if it was a copy of the shell or a copy of the field forms, I took off the FTP. It wasn't propagating agency code for me.
Oh, okay.
So, I mean, normally I just hit it as a drop down and, DFG comes up for us because, Doug hands us these shells that are formatted. How does
Right.
that work for somebody just pulling a shell off of the FTP? Would all
So,
available agency codes be available, or do you need to know the exact
um,
lettering of yours?
typically, I'm glad you brought that up. I'm not sure if I'm going to answer your question or not, but typically we will have everybody work with us prior to getting a shell
Hmm.
so that the preferences that you need to drop down in the menus will be there.
Okay.
So if you had a shell that was created for you guys, it should have had your agency code in it.
Hmm.
And it should have dropped down when you were getting ready to enter data in the BA through the BA field form. But so yeah, I'm glad you brought that up. We will work with you to get your preferences designed specifically for your project code. And then when you do hook the BA field form up to your shell, all of your information should be on that shell, but not other people's information. It should
And
have like your agency code, your personnel that you want.
okay, that was my
Um,
next question. Thank you.
yeah.
Hey,
Um,
and then I have one
yes,
more question.
sure.
So if you set up a shell for us and we have new, like, I'm assuming we could use the same shell for a whole season,
Yeah,
provided we don't
usually.
add new stations. And if
Right.
we need
If
to
you,
add new stations, we have to put those in manually, or should we
well,
submit new stations to you and then get a new
yes,
copy of a shell after that?
good questions. Thank you so much. So I think there are some ways that you can add things to this, but we don't want you to do that. I think they may have done that years ago and we haven't changed that
Yeah,
ability.
I used to
So
do that, but if
yes,
I know if I made up a station and it didn't turn out to
yes.
be the end code or something like that, that could be a pain for people to rectify later.
Yeah, thank you for asking. Okay, so if you do have a new code that you need to enter data for, please talk to your Swamp IQ liaison so that they can get the code into the Swamp database lookup list.
Hmm.
Because the problem would be if you went ahead and added a code into the BA field form just because let's say you sampled site A and B in the spring and that's what's in your shell and now you have site C and you've added site C to this, my database will not recognize it because it's not in our database. So then the shell would fail and we would have to put station code in and then try again later, you know. So all vocabulary has to be added prior to entering data to the shell. You work with your Swamp IQ liaison on that. We will create a preference profile just specific for your project. You guys do things a little bit different, Nate. Um, so I'm not going to tell everybody how you guys do things.
Hmm.
And I work with you guys a little bit differently than I do other groups. So, did that kind of answer your question?
Yeah, it did.
Okay,
I mean, I got, other questions, but this probably isn't the right forum for this.
okay, okay,
I can ask you stuff later too.
sure. Okay, so anyway, here's your helpful tips sheet. It's I don't know, 14 pages long. So if you do run into any snags on while you're entering data, your answer might be in here on how to fix it. So that's kind of a cool thing. I'm gonna go ahead and close that. So now I'm just going to go ahead and open up the BA field form and we're going to hook up this shell to the BA field form. And I'm going to show you a little bit about how that works. So double click it. This is the BA field form. Right here, this button, you will browse for that shell, which it says browse database. This is it. I'm going to go ahead and hook it up and relink it. That happens really quickly. And then refresh the tables always. Say yes. And that happens really quickly. and then just close this form, and then you can start entering new data. I'm going to go ahead and there's a couple things here. So you can enter new data, or you can resume entry from a previous session. When you're entering bioassessment data, always go to the very end of the form or the page that you're working on and hit save, because if you quit in the middle, it will not save it. And when you do close this down by, exiting it out or exit bioassessment, it disconnects from the shell. So when you hook it back up and you go to resume your entry from the previous session, if you didn't save it at the very end of the page, and it won't save if you haven't completed a page, you won't be able to go back to that page. It'll take you back to what you had done before that. So always go to the end of the page and save it, just to make sure that you don't lose any of your information and hard work that you've put into adding the data. So right now I'm just going to say I want to enter something new. So is this, Nate, where you said your agency code didn't populate?
Yeah, that's where.
Okay. All right. If you do run into something like that again, I can look at the shell with you just to make sure everything's activated the way it should be, or that what you need is in there. And I'm telling everybody else that too. If something doesn't seem to be working correctly, a lot of times we can solve the issue over the phone, and I can just walk you through how to make sure you can get what you need. So protocol code, most people use this one for bioassessment, and then go to reach documentation. And this looks very similar to your, I'm going to open it up a little bit more.
Hey, Tony, I have a question.
Yes. Yes.
Luke here. So
Sure.
when you relink the tables and you're saying clear the tables, you can do that without messing up. If you're just continuing to enter data, it doesn't delete what you've already put in there so far.
Sure. Refresh it each time. I'm not sure exactly what that does, but I have never heard anything different. Maybe Nate can answer that one. Nate, okay, I'm going to tell you guys, I'm going to admit I have never actually entered a whole set of real data. So I have only done dummy data on these to kind of go through the whole thing and see the way that it behaves. But I know Nate has entered real data, and maybe he can answer that. Like, Nate, if you have suspended your data entry and then gone back, do you always just hook it up the same way and refresh before you re-enter or start re-entering data?
You don't have to relink the tables as long as you're still looking at the same database every time, but it doesn't hurt to hit the button.
Okay, good. All right, well, thank you. Thanks for that question, Luke.
Thank you, and Nate too.
Okay, so here we are at reach documentation. Let's see if this looks pretty good. See if I can make that a little bit bigger. So let's say that we have populated all of your preferences and you have your project name in here. You would start with that. This is what we call sample information at the beginning. So you always want to enter your sample information, and a term that we have is sample through collection. So when you're going through this, you want to go all the way through to the very end, the last page, where you can put your algae, BMI, and chemistry collections in here. So the date, if you double click it, it would be today's date, and you can go in and change the date as need be, or you can, try entering it in this way. So just type it in. Time is always in military time. So if you wanted to say you did this at 2 o'clock, you would enter 1400. The site name, it's not necessary for you to put it in here. But when you choose your site code or station code, the site name will show up. You can also enter a site description if you'd like, but that's not necessary. When you do your GPS device, this one says they used a cell phone, and you would put in your actual Latin long that you collected while you were out there. If this is your target for that site, this 504 ESS 004. So this is the target, and you would put in where you actually went. And the negative 122.270. Okay, so I made it a little bit different because when I click out of there, it's going to show me how far the distance was from the target. So even if you don't, actually, which people typically don't get actually on the target values, and this will show you if you're within 300 meters, which is what our rule is for the bioassessment collections. So crew members, we always have 2 crew members when we go out in the field. So make sure you do 1 and 2 next to each other, not 1 and 3. That's a mistake I made. And then it told me, well, you didn't fill in the second person. So always do 1 and 2. If you do 1 and 3, it will think you don't have a second person. Okay, so this is where you would put your field water quality measurements. There are 4 of them here that are optional. You do not need to fill these in, but if you've collected them, go ahead and fill them in. I'm going to show you quickly how to go through this. You would choose the collection device that you told us you use. You'd put a calibration date in here, which if you double click it, it will be today's date, and then you can go and change it to whatever day you collected the information. So we will put something in there. So if you actually do have a measurement, you do not require a flag here. But if you didn't take the measurement for some reason and you didn't record it, you would have to put a flag here. So I'm going to show you how to put a flag, not recorded, and then the QA code will pop up. And if you don't type in NR for not recorded, you'll get the whole list and you'd have to scroll down to find it. But if we put NR in, it will show up here and you can choose that. And you're always going to have 2 flags down here if you don't record something. I'm going to go ahead, do this one real quick. And those are optional. We'll leave that one out. I'm just making these numbers up. You might be laughing at me saying, that's not possible. Okay, salinity. We'll just say that's not recorded. Show you again one more time. I'm just trying to get to the end of this page here so I can show you. Okay, so now I think that I have completed everything here. And if I save to go to the next transect, it won't allow me to save. And this is kind of a nice feature. So if you've missed something, it will light up, it will highlight in red, and then you can say, okay, I'll put that in there. And now it should let me save. The reach data was saved. So if I happen to quit here in the middle and closed everything out, it would be lost. But now that it's saved, it's there forever. So there's some little tips and tricks here. This is the first transect. I'm not going to go over the whole thing on what to do with this, but if you, let's see, if you didn't check the algae or if you didn't take algae parameters, you can check this and this will gray out and then you won't have to fill this in. But if you did take algae, you need to fill in all of this information and you'd be copying it directly from your data sheets. Bank full width, you always want to do that. Height, you want to do that. And then down here, which is kind of a cool little thing, is you're looking at all the human influence and there's a whole bunch of different things that are looked at, and you can click this here and it will change them all to 0, because a lot of times there are none of these things on your reach. But let's say you did actually have a park and you wanted to make that one not 0, you could click it. So instead of having to go through each and every one, you could just make them all 0 and then fill in the ones that actually have something in them. And then you've got your habitat complexity here. I'm just going to go through and click on some. And then your densiometer readings, those are important. If you go to the bottom and you have not put something in here, it will turn red. I'm just going to leave that one open just to show you guys. And then same here. I'm just going to click on some of these. So like I said, this is just all dummy information to get through, kind of showing you how to do it. And it may be different when you're adding your actual information. So this tells me here that one picture was required. So you would just probably put what you're calling the picture. Well, there is no way to upload photographs. So I think this is just information that if you want to go back and see, what the picture was called when you actually saved it somewhere, that'll help you. Okay, so this is telling me that I missed something. I'm going to go put this last number in here, densiometer number. Oh, and I missed all this algae stuff. So let's see if this will work. Okay, so then you have to put something in here, which is all your, is that right? I'm going to go ahead and pick these. Wetted width. We'll say the wetted width was 10. Okay. So, oh, there we go. All right. So when you put the wetted width in here, you get these numbers here, and then whatever depth you took them at here. There we go. And then your codes for what's there. Okay. So let's go again now that I think I've filled in all of the red items. See if I could save it. Something else I still did not complete. Oh, one. Okay, we'll save 25. Okay, let's try it now. So at least that's really cool that you can go back and add things if you have not, completed them. It knows that much. See, I don't know. I'm not going to go through any more of this, but once you've done all of your transects, and just remember to go to the end to get your slope and bearing, all of your collection information for bioassessment, your BMI, algae, and chemistry. So I am going to go ahead, see, and close this out. Right now, I'm going to go ahead and exit. And then I just want to hook this up. We'll just show you that real quick. To see if we can resume data entry. Okay, I'm going to relink it. And then we heard that we didn't have to refresh tables, but it doesn't hurt to refresh the tables. So we'll do that. I will close this form and I'm going to go here to resume data entry. So the last thing that I did is here, and when you want to resume it, you would click on the number here. So that's going to take me to the next form, which is Transect AB or Inner Transect AB, after I saved the other two forms in front of it. So that's how you do that. And does anybody have questions now? Are you guys still there?
Hey,
Did
Tony.
did I put you to sleep?
Hey, I don't think you even have to relink the database when you
Oh,
reopen.
really?
I think you
Okay.
can just hit close at the bottom. I think that
Oh,
relinking
okay.
step is just if you're going to start looking at a new shell.
Oh, okay. All right. Sounds good. But like you said, it doesn't hurt to do it,
Yeah, it
right?
doesn't hurt. So if people
Okay.
want to maintain the same steps every time for
Yeah.
continuity, that's fine.
Yeah. So can you think of anything that I might have missed? You know, it's impossible to really go through this whole thing in a short period of time. But can you think of anything important that I might need to add?
Not for entry. I mean, I feel like this covers a lot of like the good basic stuff. One
Okay.
thing that I used to um like need to do was go through data review and make like quick queries for looking up
Ah,
um,
okay.
things
Do I?
like sample collection time for COCs. Yeah, so in there,
Uh-huh.
but that's a little higher level and maybe not appropriate for this group. I'm not sure.
Yeah. So,
Take
I
good
mean,
notes
you
in a notebook and you don't have to do this step.
right. And now we have the shell viewer that people can hook up to.
Okay,
Let
well
me
if there's another tool for that, then you probably don't need to cover the queries.
Yeah, let me see real quick. We've got a few more minutes. Let me see if I can pull my shell viewer over and show you guys that. Okay, so you all see this. This is another tool that we have. It's the shell viewer. It's been updated to 64-bit. So tell me that you can see it. I'm still sharing with you guys.
I
Okay.
can see it. You haven't opened it
Okay,
though. Okay,
cool.
there you go.
So this is a pretty slick little tool. You would browse for the shell here. Desktop. Look it up. I always relink because that's what I do. So now it will tell me what samples are in there. So what did I do? This was you would not, well, you could do this. Yeah, same station code, different dates. So it tells you what your samples are. So this is how you can review your data and see that you've put everything in correctly. So you can look at your samples, you can look at your sample history and see what you've put in there. And then the locations tells you where the locations are. Personnel, did I do that? Yes. There's the people that I put in there. And then you can go to your benthic collections, which I didn't get that far yet. But if you want to actually look at your benthic collections, it would be on X. So you could go here and see what you put in. This would be like after you've entered all your data and you'd be looking at all this information over here to the right, the collection time, collection method, sample type, etc. So I'm going to close that. And then if you had lab collections, that's chemistry data that you've sent to the lab, you could look at those. So field results, I didn't get that far, but once again, you would probably most likely filter on X. Most of the field collections are on X. And you would have this, I guess I did enter that information. So we did that on the first page. So you can check your numbers here. This is where you can check your results and make sure you didn't put like a comma in there. Make sure that all your numbers match what's on your field sheets.
Quick question, Tony.
Yes.
let's say we were checking our numbers there and we saw that we did put in a comma or misplaced a decimal point. Can we edit the data there?
I don't know. Do you know?
I don't know. If we make
actually-
mistakes, we write it on a Post-it note and give it to Doug.
And then you
And
guys
then-
give it to me.
Yeah, I mean,
Okay,
that's as far as
no,
I know as
wait
the
a minute.
process. Yeah.
Okay, so I do know the answer to this question. You cannot fix it in the shell viewer. You
Okay.
would have to actually go into the shell and fix it. And I can
Okay.
walk you through how to do that if you did find something wrong.
Cool.
But for a second there, I was thinking I was still in the BA field form. But when you do your data review in the BA field form, can you fix something while you're looking at things there?
Edit there.
Yeah, can you edit?
Yeah, I would be able to edit there. I could change like sample collection times in
Okay.
pH and stuff like that
Well,
in there.
So for this class or this group, I'm just going to say, if you guys run into anything that looks weird or you've entered it wrong, you can call me and I can help you figure out how to fix it in the actual shell itself. Or you can give me the shell. If it's like one thing, I might be able to fix it for you. So then habitat results, you can do the same thing here. That's usually 1,800 or so results. So you'd want to go here and it's everything that you've entered in the database all the way down. So you'd want to like be able to see the analyte name, check your variable results, check your results, make sure that everything's correct in here. And I just really love this tool for checking data. It's really cool. So that's a really great way to QC your data. And so it's always good for you to wait a day and QC it. You can QC it yourself a day or a week later, or have somebody else that's in your office QC it to make sure that things were entered correctly before you submit it. And so I think we're just about done. Does anybody have any burning questions? I thank you all for joining me today and having to listen to me. I hope I didn't put you guys to sleep. So happy data entering. Hope you guys all have a really good year. Know that Swamp IQ is here for you. If you need to get your new vocabulary into the database, get your preferences set up, and we'll, provide whatever it is that you guys need to get your data in. So I think I'm going to go ahead and end this. Thank you all, and we'll talk with you later.
Thank you from Chico.
Okay, take care.
Yep, thank
Thanks,
you.
Penny. All right.